My name is Donald. My dad was from Dallas. In World War II, he was stationed at a place called Camp Tyson in Paris, Tennessee. He met my mom, brought her back to Dallas. They married. After she got pregnant, she didn't want to have her baby here in Dallas in these little segregated hospitals. By this time, her parents had relocated from Tennessee up to Cleveland, Ohio. So she went up to Cleveland and had me in a hospital called Cleveland Clinic. 6 weeks later, she brought me back to one of the most segregated cities in the country. Everything in Dallas was segregated. The schools, the churches, we couldn't go to the restaurants, we couldn't try on clothes down at the department stores, couldn't go into the libraries, and if it wasn't for Negro Day at the State Fair of Texas, it was for whites only. But about this time, some black leadership started to arise. A man named A. Maceo Smith started getting blacks jobs at the post office and down at Union Terminal. Then we had a lady named Miss Minnie Flanagan. Miss Flanagan was the first woman president of the NAACP and of the Progressive Voters League. Well, Miss Flanagan, she's a very light-skinned lady. She looked almost white. So she would put that rich white woman's makeup on and put that fur around her neck, and she would go downtown to the finest of restaurants. And she would tell the maitre d', say, I've got guests coming, and when they get here, please show them to my table. And Miss Flanagan, she would get the biggest, blackest people she could find. And they would come to the door, and she'd say, because she had told the maitre d', show them to my table when they get here, my guests. So she'd say, oh, there they are, there they are, over here, over here. And the maitre d', he look at Miss Flanagan, and he'd look back at the guests, and then he'd look at Miss Flanagan, and he'd say, whoa, oh, whoa, no, 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 no. We have a lot of things in this restaurant, but this ain't one of them. No. Well, some of the people in Dallas thought that Miss Flanagan was a little too radical. So they replaced her with a lady named Miss Juanita Craft. Miss Craft, she was kind of matronly, moved a little slower, was a little more compromising. Miss Flanagan, she didn't compromise. She wanted her freedom right here and right now. So about this time, the men who fought in World War II went off to the schools on them GI Bills. So by this time, they started coming back home, and they were needing places to live. Because, they didn't want to live in them run-down shotgun houses, no running water, no indoor plumbing. So they started moving over to South Dallas. Now, the first families that moved into South Dallas, the people started throwing firebombs in their houses and dynamite in the houses. So the city fathers, they say, well, we got to do something about this housing problem. So they went in far north Dallas and built a community out there called Hamilton Park. Hamilton Park had everything brand new. brand new sidewalks, brand new streets, brand new schools, brand new churches, shopping centers, because most of the people that lived in Hamilton Park, they were like doctors and lawyers and professional musicians and artists. My daddy got a job at the post office, and we bought a home in Hamilton Park. Now, usually when you talk about or you hear about the civil rights movement, you don't hear a lot about Dallas. Well, in 1956, Dr. Martin Luther King came to Dallas. So the leading ministers met him out here at Love Field Airport. And they said, Dr. King, we want to have a word with you. Say now, we need to know what your plans is. Because, all that marching and all that boycotting and all that, we can't have that here. Because, they got to go back and report to the city fathers about what Martin's plans was. So they say, now, you're welcome to come and preach the gospel, but all of that other stuff, just leave it out, because Dallas takes care of its own. So Dr. King was invited to go over to Good Street Baptist Church. He preached a gospel sermon, but he said no thing about civil rights or about organizing. But later on, he was quoted to be saying that he had heard, he was saying kind of like the ministers in Dallas were kind of embarrassing. But we had a support system, though. We had ladies like Miss Essie Reed. She was the first black person to work for the Dallas Public Library System. And I would go to the library, and she would open that door, hold that door, and say, come on in now, come on. I'd scurry up the stairs, and go up to that children's department, and I'd spend hours reading the old Dallas Morning Newses, and Dallas Times Herald, Dallas Expresses. Because we had teachers that wanted us to succeed. Because, see, at one time, black teachers could not get advanced degrees in the state of Texas. So our teachers went to schools like Harvard and University of Michigan and Columbia. They had a lot more education than a whole bunch of them white teachers. So after graduation from high school, I went up to North Texas up in Denton. Well, North Texas, just a few years earlier, had been forced to integrate in a lawsuit called Atkins versus Matthews. Well, Denton was really segregated. You couldn't live in a lot of the housing, couldn't go into a lot of the places. So a lot of the students that went to North Texas and went to TWU had to live with families there in Southeast Denton. Well, about this time, that Vietnam War was starting, and we all had to register for the draft. I registered, but I was opposed to that war. I didn't feel like I should go way over to Vietnam fighting for freedom over there. When I wasn't getting freedom here at home. Now, 50 years later, they say, that was a pretty unjust war. But one thing, if we wanted to go somewhere and eat, and we were forced to go around to the back to get served in some of them places, sometimes we'd know the cook. And the cook would say, hey, ain't you Roxas' boy? I say, well, yes, ma'am. So she said, wait a minute. say, here's a couple of chickens. Take these to your mama. Tell them Sister Evans sent them. And I put 2 pieces of meat on your hamburger.